Hi, everyone. I know some of you wanted me to start doing recordings of videos to help you to understand some of the teaching concepts that I'm talking about as they pertain to the readings and things like that. So this is going to be the first one. Sorry if it's a little grainy. It is 10:30 at night, and I was watching TV, and I decided now would be a great time to tell my students about bell hooks, right? At 10:30 on a Friday night. So I do have some questions for you to consider. Normally, I would put these questions in a group discussion format. So again, if you have Zoom and you want to kind of spitball these ideas with peers, a group of your choosing, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to just have the discussion with yourself, that's also fine. Or if you want to message me for further elaboration, whatever works best for you. But I did want to share this video. Essentially, I'm going to be asking some leading questions for you to think about so that one, they'll help to organize what Hook says a little bit better, but two, you'll kind of know what to look for in terms of those definitions. Some of you I've noticed on your discussion board posts have already talked about certain things, which are great. And I recommend anyone who is struggling with the Hooks reading particularly to look at some of those discussion board posts. I noticed people talking about the protesters in Hong Kong. I think Black Lives Matter was another one of examples of self-recovery. So those in conjunction with this should be very helpful. Here we go. And I'm going to switch to a share screen in a moment because I'm going to show you those questions. And as I'm showing you the questions, I'm going to kind of explain a little bit further what I mean by them. So I hope all of this makes sense. I'm going to turn my volume up. I turned my volume up a little bit, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Again, if you want to talk these out with your peers in your own Zoom, go for it. If you want to look at those discussion board posts and reply accordingly, go for it. If you want to email me with further questions, go for it. But remember, the T4 and the discussion board post are due this Sunday. So that's kind of the reason why I'm doing this at such an odd hour on Friday night. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but I wanted to give you as much time as I could. So yeah, here we go. All right, so we're going to go into share screen. And I have the discussion questions here. So I'm just trying to move all my stuff around so y'all can see everything. And I will explain what these mean. So, bear with me. So this reading of Hooks goes in conjunction with the class notes on defining and describing, the PowerPoint of which is on Canvas under module 2. So a couple of things, and you can pause this recording as you like, it's totally fine. A couple of things to keep in mind before you do the reading or while you're pre-reading. The first of which being refer back to the PowerPoint, right? So before we discuss, and when I say discuss, right, I'm talking about those 3 methods I just outlined. Before you dive into Hooks, before you post your discussion board, or if you have already, no big deal. I want you to keep in mind the following things from the defining and describing PowerPoint. First off, a lot of the definitions that Hooks uses are stipulative definitions, meaning they reflect her understanding of the concepts that she's sharing. So, and I just want to clarify really quickly. Bell Hooks is kind of like the poet E.E. Cummings in that, like, her name is all supposed to be lowercase. That's not a typo when you see that lowercase h, or B if I put Bell as well. That's how she prefers to have her name. It's actually a nom de plume, a pseudonym, if you will. But that is how she spells it, with the 2 lowercase first letters. So anyway, her definitions are stipulative definitions. So what that means is she's not kind of just flipping through a Merriam-Webster and going, okay, here's the definition for critical consciousness, right? She's saying, this is my definition for this term. And that's going to make a lot more sense when we get to self-recovery, because she kind of, she shares another person's definition and then she says, here's how mine is different, right? So that's kind of the nature of the stipulative definition, right? That it's reflecting with her experience, where she's coming from, what she means this thing to be, okay? So one of the things you can say is like, I don't agree with that, right? I think that critical consciousness means this, right? Just like when we talked about critical thinking in our class and what each of you thought it meant, right? We all had these very different stipulative definitions of that. That's kind of like what we're getting at. Sorry for the shaking. My dog is lying next to me and she's being a little sassy right now. Okay, the next one. The definitions are based on her subjective experience. I need to get better at looking at the camera. As well as her extensive theoretical knowledge. So in her definitions, you're going to see the weaving, right? I love that word, right? The weaving of objective and subjective descriptions, meaning it is going to have a little bit of that dictionary definition element to it, but it's also going to have that personal sort of, here's how I see this thing, here's what I see this to mean, right? Based on my personal experience, my knowledge, my expertise, right? So be aware of that. Also, she talks a little bit about where she's coming from. And I don't want to give anything away. I want you to read the reading. But, when she talks about her own learning experience and kind of the epiphanies that she had, so to speak, the realizations she had, the things she mentions about her life and background, right? How are those informing her experience? In other words, how is who she is kind of making her to be interested in these things, if that makes sense? Think about anyone, anywhere who does anything. I know that's very broad, but, think about your own experience and the majors you have and the things you care about, right? The odds are the things you want to study or the things you care about are based on, where you're coming from as a person. Sorry, my dog is bugging. She's bugging me. Hi, Kolsa. Everyone say hi to my dog. Yeah, there she is. Okay, so, think about that. How is who she is informing these things she wants to talk about and study, okay? And then once you have all the definitions that I ask specifically about in the questions, once you have all of those, put them together, kind of synthesize them, add them all up. And based on all these things she's talking about, what's this sort of dominant impression that you're getting, okay? Yeah, thinking about all the definitions and descriptions together, like if we put them all together, just like we're making a cake, right? Like we got the flour, the eggs, the vanilla, the butter, the chocolate chips, the whatever else, right? If you put it all together, it's going to create that dominant impression of a cake, right? So in the same way, when you put all of these definitions that she's sharing together, that she's setting up, what's sort of the overall message that you're getting once you tie all those in together? And so the questions I have specifically, which just kind of ask you to decode and summarize the reading. First one is, what does she mean when she states language is also a place of struggle? She keeps repeating this at the beginning. And, you have to read the rest of it to really go back and understand, like, why she cares about language. What is it about language that she cares about? And why would it be a place of struggle? Okay. So keep that in mind. Then the next kind of section that we'll look at is she talks about Thich Nhat Hanh, and Thich Nhat Hanh has a very specific, excuse me, I gotta grab some water. Thich Nhat Hanh has a very specific definition for self-recovery. And Hooks is saying, I like it, but I have something to change or add, right? So look out for that, find out what that is. Then talk about how she defines critical consciousness. Also how she defines the collective voice, and not just that, but why is it important to have a collective voice? Why do we need to go to a collective voice and beyond sort of the individual voice? And then finally, this might feel a little weird to you as you're reading it. I know it did to me the first time I read it. At the end, she talks about like those self-help books, right? And you're like, what is going on, right? Like, how did she end this thing talking about self-help books? But she's doing it for a reason. I know it feels a little weird, but just bear with. So in that section about the self-help books, she talks about naming the pain and why naming the pain is not enough. So why, according to her, isn't it enough? That's the question for you to decipher. What does she say about it that makes it so that naming the pain is not enough in terms of getting to self-recovery? In other words, what do we have to do beyond just naming the pain in order to recover ourselves? I know this is a challenging reading. I'm gonna put it back. So I'm gonna switch it back to stop share now. So again, you can pause this as you like, so you can have a chance to look at this screen and hear my voice. But I'm gonna come back to my face. Hello. So yeah, keeping those in mind. Once you have answers to those questions, kind of break it, in the true meaning of the term analysis, break it down and then put it back together. Once you have the answers to that, I think Hooks will be a lot more accessible to you. I'm not gonna lie, this isn't the most challenging reading, but it's a tough one. And luckily it's pretty short, so we don't have to freak out about that. But I think once you have the answers to those, you can get that dominant impression. And remember, it's dominant impression. Impressions are fluid, right? It's not like a math class where you have to know this is exactly what she's saying, right? So if you're like, I think it's this, right? Like, talk to people, talk to me, look at the discussion board, reread the thing. Cause it's valuable, right? This knowledge is valuable. So I hope that helps. I'm going to go back to watching probably Snapped now because I'm on a murder documentaries kick. No, not going to lie. I'm going to go back to watching Snapped and having my dogs drive me insane. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. More updates to come on Sunday, as I told all of you in the Zoom meeting who attended yesterday. So look for me posting the materials for next week on Sunday. And also remember to have the T4 and discussion board posted by Sunday night at 11:59. The instructions are on Canvas under discussions for both of those assignments. All right, have a wonderful night. I will be seeing you in cyberspace soon. Bye-bye.